Okay, let's investigate the shape of long-run cost curves. Here's a question to think about. Why are some firms small, like this Cuisinart sub shop, with one building and a few employees, while other firms are so large with massive production factories, advanced equipment, and thousands of employees? To answer these questions, we can investigate the shape of the total cost and average cost functions. In some cases, in special cases, total costs may be increasing at a constant rate in a linear fashion. So this total cost function, green cost function, is a ray from the origin, but more often than not, total cost increases at a decreasing rate at first, and then beyond a certain point, it increases at an increasing rate. That is more popular case. Let's investigate the shape of average cost curves. There are two cases, discrete case and continuous case. By discrete case, I mean plant size come in only a few varieties, such as small, medium size, or large. A good example would be memory chip producing factories. So these factories, memory chip factories, come in only three sizes. Small, represented by this average cost curve AC1, or medium size, represented by AC2, and the large firm, large factory, represented by the average cost curve AC3. So depending on the desired level of output, you can either choose a small factory, medium-sized factory, or large factory. Okay. So when output grows or quality improves, more capital is required, and the firm would be on a new average cost curve. Eventually, a firm will outgrow a small facility, and they need to move into a larger building or factory. Next, let's consider the continuous case. In this case, we can use a whole bunch of short-run cost curves and fine-tune the plant size. So a good example would be, instead of memory chip factory, let's consider a potato chip factory. Depending on the market demand, you can fine-tune the firm size or factory size. You can build this AC1 or AC2 or AC 100. Okay. Depending on the desired output level, you can choose any one of these cost curves and factories. We say that there are economies of scale when output increases. That does not always happen, but sometimes large scale reduces the production costs. So a good example would be car production, automobile production in the United States, which began with the Henry Ford's Model T production in about 100 years ago. He visited some Iowa butcher shop and borrowed this assembly line idea and applied it to the automobile production plant. Until then, automobile production was a handcraft manufacturing. And production cost was very high, and there were more than 100 car production firms in those days. Public utilities is another Public utilities are another example, like water company, electric company. Their factory or plant facilities are so large it costs millions and millions of dollars to bring water. So we cannot tolerate a bunch of small firms extending their water faucets to your bedroom and bathroom and so on. As firm size increases, there are economies of scale. Production cost goes down. So, but also there are diseconomies of scale. Sometimes when output expands a great deal, eventually diseconomies of scale set in. So a good example would be Roman Empire. In 286 AD, Emperor Diocletian thought that the Roman Empire is just too big for one emperor to manage. So he appointed Maximian as co-emperor, and each of them were called Augustus, and they had two underlings. Under Diocletian, Galerius was a Caesar, and Constantius was Caesar under Maximian. They thought, so these were called tetrarchy. Tetra means in Greek 1/4. Tetrarchy instead of oligarchy. So these four guys split the Roman Empire, and they were able to manage 1/4 of the Roman Empire. Each of them was able to manage the 1/4 of the empire. But that did not last very long, unfortunately. But at the time, they thought it was a great idea because the empire was so big for one person to manage. So this example shows you need, when firm size gets very big, you need mid-level or regional managers. And also, in order to harmonize the policies of these branches, they need human resource department, and they're going to spend transportation costs to facilitate communication and management of these various parts and branches. So eventually coordination and bureaucracy increase. So far we have been arguing that there are three factors of production. Output is a function of capital, labor, and natural resources. I never mentioned entrepreneurship. E stands for entrepreneur. Somebody has to organize all these production activities. He's the boss, and we cannot increase the number of bosses. For each firm there is only one boss. So as the firm size gets bigger and bigger, eventually that one person, one boss cannot manage all these problems. So that explains the origin of diseconomies of scale. Okay, so the entire Roman Empire was managed by one person, emperor or imperator, but sooner or later all these bureaucratic problems emerge. So in some industries, when output is not that great, as firm size increases, as output level increases, as Q goes up, average cost declines, long run average cost declines. But beyond a certain point, this empire or the group becomes too large and long run average cost begins to increase. Okay? When economies of scale develops, long-run average cost curve goes down. In some cases, as output increases, average cost stays constant. And beyond a certain point, it begins to rise. So in this region, we have diseconomies of scale. In this flat segment, we have constant returns to scale. And on the rising portion of the long-run average cost, we see increasing returns to scale. So generally speaking, this discussion indicates U-shaped long-run average cost curve like this. So in this region, roughly, we have economies of scale. In this region where the curve is more or less flat, we have constant returns to scale. In this rising portion of the long-run average cost curve, we see diseconomies of scale. Okay? So when long-run marginal cost is less than average cost, long-run average costs are falling. So why do these average cost curves shift? Well, there are many reasons. If you develop a new process to produce the same product at lower cost, whatever, long-run average cost is going to shift downward. Sometimes, well, you have to import foreign inputs from other countries. Sometimes they raise the price, and that's going to raise shift the long-run average cost curve upward. So this happens with the rare earth elements or minerals. There are about a dozen different rare earth elements. It's very difficult to produce these rare earth elements because they are toxic. So there are lots of toxic byproducts which need to be eliminated. So production costs of these rare earth elements are high. Not so much in China because they have lax rules on pollution. But recently they had threatened us that they would ban the exports of rare earth elements. Why do we pay attention to rare earth elements? Well, because they are like yttrium and scandium, etc. These have very strong magnetic properties. So they are used in high-resolution TVs like 4K, 8K TVs, and smartphones. They need metal. They need strong magnets, okay, in small crowded space. So that's why they need yttrium and other rare earth elements. And they are raising the prices, I hear, and that's going to shift the long-run average cost curve upward. Not only long-run average cost, but total cost also. So these are the sources of long-run shifts in long-run average cost curves. Okay. Suppose that as a firm grows, it is able to use a larger volume of equipment in production. This will most likely result in economies of scale. Okay. Next. Which of the following is most likely a cost that only a very large firm will have? Electricity. Well, that would be a medium-sized firm. Water companies also. Paying rent on a building. Wages for workers in human resources. If a firm has a human resource department, that is a large firm. So small franchises like Burger King in Northern Galilee, well, they don't need human resource department. The manager is the human resource department, part-time, even at that. Okay.